to show awards. So we are very, very lucky and pleased to have David demonstrating. And he's done this for 25 years, and he had, well, public school teacher he was for 25 years. So he has some really good teaching creds, and we're going to take advantage of that this afternoon. So David, take it away. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks everybody for having me. I'm going to go ahead and right now we're using my computer camera. If it's okay, I will go to a screen share because I have some cameras above me, and then we can look down on the painting, my palette, things like that. So
David, this is Vicki. I just want to say one thing. There's still some spots available for people to sign up. Our workshop will be August 21st through the 23rd, Monday through Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So you'll have to figure that out. But I just want to really promote David as such an excellent teacher, great patience, great instruction. So I hope you all join us. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Vicki. I'll show people a couple of photos of what we'll be working on there. So I'm going to go to screen share and
excuse me, David. I'm not seeing anything. I see the people at the top of my screen, but I'm not getting you at all.
Use the speaker view.
Yeah, when you go to view, use the speaker view.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
that's checked. I am using that.
Oh,
now I.
Is there more than one person having problems with seeing me?
No.
No. Everyone else is fine?
So Chris
Nope,
and Vicki, this is Susan. Maybe we can help her offline and move along.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's like 100 people or so watching. So I'll go ahead and start going, and hopefully you guys can help her out on the side or through chat. See if you can problem solve what the issue is for. So I'm going to go to my screen share. Whoops. Let's see. Let's see. And I'm just curious, Vicki, do you see like my hand and my mouse and a picture of some boats in the right-hand corner?
Yes.
Okay, great. And
yes.
Now you're seeing some bright lights and a handsome guy in the middle of the picture?
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to my studio. I haven't done a Zoom in a while. I had the privilege to go travel around. I was actually in France, up in the French Alps, and then southern France. And then I went over to my friends at Cheap Joe's and just taught a workshop there last week. So I've been running around. So I was busy setting up the cameras and the lights and this morning, and hopefully everything's back to where it should be. This will be the scene that the screen that I'll use most frequently. And I'll bring the picture up here, the painting, I'm sorry. And so you'll have the reference photo in the top right-hand corner. I typically look at the black and white photo when I'm painting. So I've got that on the top right-hand corner. And I've got my palette there. And so you'll be able to see me what colors I'm grabbing and things like that. And I also have lots of other options. I can zoom right in on the palette. I can talk about the photo reference, and we can look at it in color there. Oh, by the way, so the workshop coming up, we're going to be painting this bee painting. This is a really popular painting. It's actually hanging behind me, or a reproduction of it. And so I've taught that a few times, and it's been a long time, but people keep requesting it. It's a striking painting, and I hope you can join me. And we'll also try and just mix it up, tie in something else a little bit more loose and fun. I thought something like this, and we'll see how much time we have, but we'll get in as many paintings as we can. But this is a multi-step painting, so that'll take the majority of our time. And there's a PDF that I'll send out with all the steps, like I can't remember how many pages, like a 10 page PDF. So you'll have that. You'll have the recording of the workshop. I can't remember if it's 31 days or maybe Santa Clara does a little longer. All right. So anyways, so that's coming up, and you can go to my webpage or Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society webpage and find out more information about that. Okay, so let's jump back to here. And just go ahead and unmute anytime if you have any questions that come up. So I'll show you the photo one more
Hey,
time.
David,
Yeah.
you're sharing your entire Mac screen. I'm pretty sure you just want to share your video. Just to let you know. I mean, if you want to share your whole screen, that's fine. But
No.
if you're like me, you're going to get notifications you'd rather not be on Zoom.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me stop share and go back to share screen. Thanks for letting me know. I went to OBS. Let's see. It should just be giving. So are you still seeing my entire?
Perfect.
No,
Perfect.
now we can
Perfect.
just see the boat.
Oh, that's so strange. I hit the same button before, but for whatever reason, it showed my whole computer. Okay, well,
It's
okay.
How do we get the reference photo, David?
I'm sorry?
How do we get the reference photo?
You don't. This is just a demo.
You're seeing it now.
This is what if you wanted to paint, if you wanted this to be a paint along, or you wanted to paint it, you could yeah, take a screenshot of this and print it out and print it. But it's not meant to be a workshop or a paint along. It's just a demo. So I didn't send references or anything. When I teach a workshop, I email references, drawing guides, outlines, all those kind of things. This is just a demonstration. So that's the color. And again, when I typically paint, I look at the black and white. So I'll just throw that in the right-hand corner. And actually, I've got a workshop I'm driving out to tomorrow up in northern Minnesota. And I thought those guys up there in northern Minnesota would probably like this. This photo was taken, I think in Bayfield, Wisconsin. And so it's kind of a northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin type subject. So I thought that might be an appropriate subject for those guys. First thing I'm gonna do, the paper is 140-pound Fabriano rough. And if you've been in my workshops, you know, the first thing I always say is darken your drawing. You know, make sure you can see where you're going. You don't want to be lost as you're painting. So I go through and I darken up the drawing. What attracted me to this painting, well, I love the boats, but was the cast shadows. Big, interesting, easily recognizable shapes. Let's see. This is a tire right there. I think it's pretty good. I want to keep the party going, so I'll just check it over. Okay, so I think I'm good. So the first step, oh, by the way, so I've already done this, is I did a little, let me zoom in. That's the nice thing about doing Zoom is you can zoom right in your photos. So I did a little thumbnail value study. So I'm a big fan of value studies. And what I did is I did a little sketch here. And first step I did was I toned the paper. And I bet everybody's out there who's taking my workshops is all saying you tone the paper, avoiding what? Avoiding the whites, right? So there's some whites on the sides of the boat. On that right-hand side. So I avoided those whites and I toned everything else. And then I went in with the mid values and just let one mid value link and connect to another mid value. So you can see how the boat mid value just runs right into its cast shadow. This mid value ran into this boat, one boat linked to its neighboring boat, which ran into the cast shadows. And then the last step is I dropped in some darks to separate this boat from this boat, things like that. It's dropped in darks where necessary. But at least that gets my mind thinking about where I'm going to put my whites, lights, mids, and darks. Okay, so I did a little thumbnail. All right, so now we're going to try and do the same thing, but we're going to do it in color. So zoom out here. There we go. All right, and you can use any color you want as long as it provides the value that you're after. If you want a green sky, I guess you could do a green sky. And it would probably still work. It might look a little funny, but you could get away with it. But if the values are all kittywampus, then it's going to be hard to put this painting together. I am going to paint, I'm going to turn my hat around just to make sure the bill doesn't get in the way. I'm going to paint my sky more kind of bluish colors, just because I'm crazy like that. And then we're just going to have fun with colors as we move down. In fact, I might throw some fun colors in the sky too, what the heck, but probably not green. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, just so I can stay nice and loose and keep things linking and connecting, is just drop in some water. I already hit some whites. Maybe I want a little white on that car back there. That's my car. That's my high performance vehicle back there. So I'm going to just pre-wet some areas. You know what? Let's just make this easy, and we'll just go right through all this stuff here. And I'm going to try to avoid wetting anything that is anything that's white. So I know there's no white here. So I did notice now I wet the sky and I wet this here. So when I paint the sky, it's going to run right into the boat. So everything's going to link. The sky is going to link to the boat, which is going to link to the ground now. Everything's going to run together. And as the painting progresses, it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, and I'll start to separate different shapes. But at the start, I want to unify the entire painting with an underwash. Think of it like that. Okay, so I'm supposed to be avoiding anything that's white. And how am I doing? I don't think there's any white here. Looking at that black and white photo, there's white on these, they got these things on the side of the boat. So I guess when they go to the dock, they're not smashing their boat against the dock, little bumpers. There's white on that mast, the sail that's wound up there. So I'm going to try and avoid that. Okay, I can't really tell exactly where I've wet. So, but I know I've got a lot of it pre-wet. I'm trying to avoid this big white here, the white here, and the white on top of that boat. Okay, we'll see what happens. Okay, so
Dave, there's a question about what paint you use.
Okay, sure. Yeah, if you have any questions about materials and stuff, feel free to ask. I'm actually a representative of Core, so I have a lot of Core paint, and I'm a ambassador of Cheap Joe's, so I have a lot of American Journey paint. I'm really happy with both those paints. All the paintings that I got into the AWS were all with American Journey paint, and then I started using Core, and been happy with those paints as well. That being said, I have Holbein, Winsor Newton. I have all kinds of different brands of paint. So I think any professional brand paint and you'll be fine. But I do like the Core and American Journey paint. Okay, everything's wet there. This is just a 1.5 inch flat brush by Cheap Joe's. My favorite brush is the Perla brush, because it's got this a super sharp point to it, and it just snaps right back. Like I do this, look, it just snaps right back to a point. It's not a soft brush that I need to kind of form the tip. It just snaps right back to a really fine point. So you don't need to buy a number 2 brush, for example. This point on this number 12 Perla, Escoda Perla, is sharper than any point in any brush. And it's snappier. Now, somebody at Cheap Joe, or one of the guys at Cheap Joe's, recommended I try this brush, so I bought one. Where did it go? Oh, also super sharp, pointy brush, and they said it was just as snappy, but it is not as snappy as the Perla. It is very sharp, pointy brush. It's King Art Original Gold number 12. My friends at Cheap Joe's said I'd like that, and I do like it. But I prefer this because it's even snappier. So they're both razor sharp. This is brand new. This Perla is like a year old and it's still really snappy. Anyways, I'm not an ambassador of Escoda brushes. I'm not making. I know, I just like the brush, and they're synthetic. So I like animals. So animals aren't hurt or killed for their fur. So it's good for them as well. But I do have soft brushes too. I have this is an Escoda Ultimo, and this is a soft brush. It doesn't spring back, so it's a softer brush. So I do have mop brushes that are soft, and these are synthetic as well. I have Prado, which is kind of in between. It's not like super soft, and it's Skoda Prado, but it's not super soft and it's not super snappy. It's kind of in between. So I have a variety of sizes and a variety of stiffness to my brush. Some soft, some stiffer, so a variety. But this is the brush I use 99% of the time. I've got two of them. So I got one brush where I drop in paint, and I've got an old brush I put a piece of tape on. I beat the heck out of it. So this is my scrubbing brush. It's kind of my brush that I use to fade out colors and integrate colors. It's just a old, instead of throwing away, I just use it to scrub or integrate. So I got one nice brush that I try and keep nice and pointy, and one brush that I soften edges with. So I'm concerned about my values is number one. Down the list, well, first, probably the most important is composition, right? Getting an interesting painting, composition, big, easily recognizable, simple shapes, which we see here. I'm going to try and keep this wet as I'm yapping. And then values, super important. And then edges. So like, is it a hard edge? Is it a soft edge? Is it a lost edge? Is it a broken edge? What kind of edge does that shape have? Whatever shape I'm working on, what kind of edge does that shape have? So I'm very sensitive to the edge quality of all the shapes. So you'll see that sometimes I'll be coming back in with this brush and softening an edge so it's not such a hard razor sharp edge. Okay, so I'm really interested in the subject, the composition, the values, the edges, and then color is important. It is important, but it's down the list. Okay, all right, let's jump into some paint here. Let's see what happens. All right, the first step is a fun, easy step. We just have a good time. We don't worry about too much. We're just going to link and connect shapes. I'm going to grab a bunch of mud here. Let's see what that is. Oh, that's really muddy. So that's a lot of cerulean blue in there. But let's have some fun. Let's get crazy, as Bob Ross would say. So I'm wearing the Bob Ross shirt that says, "Ever make mistakes in life? Let's just make them birds." So I'm just dropping in some other colors for the heck of it. Let's just see what happens. Let's run that color around. Here's that was some alizarin crimson. Here's some queen gold. You mix red, yellow, and blue together, you get some nice mud too. So let's see if that happens. Living on the edge. Let's get things moving here. The one comment I get in my workshops more than any other is, boy, do you work wet. My whole table is a big puddle. My palette's a big puddle. Everything is wet. You like to get things wet and get things moving. So right now we're just toning the paper, trying to avoid anything that's white. Okay, so that was enough of the big brush. Let's take that wash, or that we got some beads here, and let's move that down into, let's see, down into okay, let's see here. See how I'm trying to be nice and careful. Let's see. What's white? What's white? What's white? Not too much. Let's go. We got to carve around this little white, right? Bring that down. So what's white? What's white? What's white? Actually, I got a tissue in my left hand, so if I do hit something I want white, I can hit it with a tissue. And we got to remember this is a demo. We got to keep things moving. What's white? What's white? What's white? Around the bar. Letting one color run into its neighboring color. Look at that. Just everything. It doesn't make any sense right now. Everything is just running into each other. It doesn't make any sense. And if there was no drawing, if there was nothing drawn on this paper, it would just be a weird swatch of color, right? With a few odd white patches. What's white? What's white? I'm going to try and leave a little bit of white on that tire. Be kind of fun. All right, let's drop in some other colors as we're doing this. We're just toning the paper, not worrying about anything, not worrying, not worrying, not worrying, not worrying. Just keep telling yourself that, not worried. There's only 100 people watching, so don't worry about what could go wrong. What could happen? Carving around the whites, right? So look at that. So there, you saw how loose I was, but there's times when I get really tight and careful. So that would be, again, when I'm carving around, negative painting around something that's white, for example, here in this case. Let's see, looking at the bow here, this is not white. What's white? This is not white. So I'm killing all the whites except for some folds in this. Yeah. And I destroyed most of the whites. Integrate a little bit more.
David, this is Susan Joachim. Hey, talk a little bit about what you have your watercolor board attached to. You're flipping it all around.
Yeah, when I first started painting in watercolor, I said, you know what I'm going to do is design. I'll be rich. I'll design an easel where you can turn it in any direction, because I hardly ever work flat. I'm constantly working at an angle and letting watercolor work its magic, right? Whoops. And so I had this idea of putting an easel onto a ball joint, but of course, somebody had already thought of it. This black part here, and you can go to my webpage. I have free videos on my materials, and you can go look at it. The black part, let me just pull this off for a second. The silver and black part right here is called a Gorilla easel, a 17 flex Gorilla easel. It's about $100, and it attaches to any camera tripod. But you want a camera tripod that's on a ball joint. So this camera tripod is a Manfrotto tripod. And again, I have a video on this if you want to look at it more closely. But that allows me to turn this, and I can move it in any direction. And the Manfrotto, you don't need a Manfrotto, but it is a nice solid tripod. So when I lock it in place with the lever back there, it is not moving. And I have the same tripod when I plein air paint. So this is the same exact setup. The palette is different, but this tripod and easel setup is the same exact thing. All right, so now let's dry this. Well, actually, let's do a little bit. So there's a variety of light values. So just because it's a light value doesn't mean it all has to be the same. There's some lighter lights and there's some darker lights, but we're still going to call those light. We have a range of light values. So let's do a little bit of some separating, like way back in the distance. We look at that photo. There's a suggestion of, it's a little bit too wet right now. But the water, so since it's so wet, I don't need much moisture on my brush, right? So I'm trying to suggest some water back there. But it's runny wet right now. It's just super, super wet. Let's just have some fun. All things are spattering some Quinn gold. And
David, what were the three colors you used in the sky? Cerulean blue, and what were the other?
I threw in some cerulean blue, some alizarin crimson, and some Quinn gold just to see how they would play together up there. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I'm just laying in some color while things are settling. That's some cerulean blue. This is It's burnt sienna. And this is ultramarine blue here. It's queen gold. All right. Take my beat up brush, trying to soften a couple edges. Oh, I dragged it across. Losing my whites, it's all right. All right, let's see if I can't get a line here. Still really wet. But there's a suggestion. A little bit of a separation of value from here to here. So hopefully that'll suggest way off in the distance, the horizon or the water right there. Okay, I'm going to dry this and lock it in place. So that was step one, just toning the paper. I'll mute my mic. One thing I forgot to do, which is a good habit to get into, is wiping the edge of your paper, because the water is going to collect around the edge. And I don't mind blossoms and blooms down at the bottom, but I'd rather not have a big blossom in my sky. And there's puddles right there. And those puddles are going to be greater moisture follows less moisture. So the less moisture on the surface, as it's drying, the surface is less moisture. The moisture that collects around the edge is greater moisture. The less moisture will wick the greater moisture from under your tape or from behind your painting onto your painting, and that water will push the pigment and create blossoms and blooms. So it's a good idea to get in the habit of just going around the painting every once in a while as you're painting. If you're working really wet and you don't want a blossom and bloom, just wipe the edge. Again, I'm not concerned at the bottom, but I didn't want a big blossom in the sky. I'll probably have a fingerprint, but and probably should, get in the habit of, if you're using bulldog clips, to wipe the clips. Because you can see the water collecting on the bulldog clip, right? Greater moisture wants to follow less moisture. There we go. All right, now I'll dry it again. Try to lock these colors in place.
David, we had a question. This is Christine. Is the cerulean blue core?
All right, I'm back. Was there a question? I thought I heard something as I was blow drying. Was there a question?
Yeah, there's a question about, this is Christine. What brand is the cerulean blue that you're using?
I don't know. It's probably Core, just because I get all my paints from them free, but it could be American Journey. It's probably Core.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, it's still very wet and, or not really wet, but it's moist and very kind of floppy, but I think it's dry enough where I can move on. I was tempted to wet the back of the painting and is what I typically do at this stage. And that just allows me more time to kind of play around with things when I wet the back. But since the paper is still really wet, if I wet the back, greater moisture follows less moisture. I'm going to be working on I'll be working on a pretty damp picture. So maybe I'll just not wet the back just so I can keep things moving. Okay, let's jump in, increasing our values now. So the first step on the thumbnail was I just toned everything and avoiding the whites. Then I went in and I started increasing my values, and it's a lot of times I will even put in my dark values when I put in my mids, because sometimes I like my darks to melt into my mids, but mostly mid values now. Okay, so this is the big step, the more difficult step. And once we get through this step, then we can relax again. So the darks are not that big of a deal. Okay, so I do like to keep things off in the distance, kind of. Oh, another thing you should do too is when things are dry. Well, I know they're not super dry, but when things are drier, you can see it's not even taking the pencil in some places because it's pretty wet. But go ahead and redraw your drawing while things are dry. So if you can't see anything, figure out where those things are while things are dry. I can see most of this, so let's just give it a shot. All right, so there's a tree back here. And I probably should have put this tree in while it was wet so I can get a nice soft edge, but we can get some broken edges using our finger and things like that. And let's see, how far does this tree and stuff go down? It goes down right about here. So I'll make a little wall and I'll suggest maybe some tops of some rocks and things right there. I'm just using some of that cerulean blue mix right there to suggest some trees off in the distance. So I'll call that my mid value. And then I'm going to just bring that over and I'm going to link it right to the car. Let's just bring it right into this car here. And let's try it now. Instead of avoiding the whites, we're going to try and avoid the whites, and we're going to try to avoid the lights. So anything that's white or light, we're going to try and avoid. If something's dark, we'll just run right through it. Like for example, this window is dark, so I'll just run right through it, and I can paint that again later, right? I'm gonna and then we can change colors too. It doesn't have to be all. We can have fun here. So I'm dropping in. There's some alizarin crimson into that wash. And if you've taken my workshop, you know I borrow Joseph Buchvik's terminology a lot when I'm teaching, and Joseph Buchvik talks about different consistencies of paint, right? So he's talking about whether it's tea or coffee, milk, cream, butter. I think somebody's got mic on or something. Getting some feedback. Okay, I think it's gone. Okay. I'll link that to some rocks and things here. There is a tree back there. I think I'll put that tree. I'm hearing some feedback. Is anybody else hearing feedback?
Yes.
Yes, can everyone please mute themselves?
I'm going to build a wall, and building a wall around the top of this boat, the side and top of that boat. And then I'll pull out from the wall and create the tree. And so I'm negative painting this boat with this bluish color. And you see how now that it pushed this back and it popped the boat forward. See that? And so I linked like these trees into the car, the alizarin crimson is running that direction. The car colors running into these rocks, which runs into those trees. Just letting one shape run into another. I'm going to put some of these cast shadows in back here to help again to actually this. I think I'll use some darks. I think I'll paint this side of the boat darker even. So I'll come back and I'm gonna paint this side of the boat darker. Any color I want.
Is it
Changing.
a general practice to start at the back going forward? Or is this just your choice on this particular painting?
I think most people do that. I'm not sure if everyone does that, so I shouldn't say, but I think most people work from the back into the foreground. And I'm right-handed, so I tend to work left to right because I like to put my hand on the paper. And so if I start over here, my hand will be dragging the paint across. So I just start on the left and I move it across. So I'm taking this bead of color here and I'm moving it down. And I'll separate this boat from the background later with some darker values.
Wait. So mutant. So you just mutant.
With this here, I'm hearing some weirdness out there. It's always, Zoom is always kind of funny that way. It's people learning how to use it. And see how it's darker underneath the boat and it gets kind of lighter as it moves up. So I'm creating a soft and lost edge there. In fact, maybe I'll drop in a little bit of some darker value here just right now. So maybe I don't do it later. All right. Yeah, you know what? Let's just I'm gonna grab some. This is dioxine purple. It's a nice dark color. Let's use some of that. Start. Actually, this is all in shadow, so I'll separate those again later. Let's suggest some beams coming down. And let's go ahead and let's start pulling in some shadows across here. Right into this guy here. I'm going to let this run right into this. Yeah, being brave, just going for it. Okay. Let's just go for it. Let's see here. All this is in shadow, so everything just connect and link it all. This is Queen Gold. It's one of my favorite colors. I use it a lot. I just like the color. And let's have some fun adding some other colors. Well, now we're negative painting around this other little bumper on this other boat. What color should we throw in? I'm taking suggestions. How about some purple? I love watching colors mix and run around the paper. All right, getting some, this is some phthalo blue. Let's see. This big. Trying to suggest these braces that are coming down across. something like that. So now this boat's got every color in the rainbow. This size and shadow, so let's just some that color in there. Let's just drag this across. There's our shadow. And suggest more. Probably should have a few more back here somewhere. And let's link this boat to this boat. Avoiding what? What are we avoiding? Whites and what? Lights, right? Whites and lights. This is the alizarin crimson. Using the perla brush. Let's see. That'll be dark later, right? Grace right there, grace right there. This is all dark. What are we worried about? What could go wrong? Well, this is going to pool and break through. That could go wrong. Let's see what else. Notice I just let that run right into the other boat. Let one boat run into its neighboring boat. Linking and connecting based on values. Some kind of a shape right here. I don't know what it is. I'm going to put that in there. Let's break that up a little bit. Okay, let's see. Seems so clean back here. I think I might repaint this stuff later and just bring these across. All right. Another big cast shadow of another boat right here. Oh, this is a fun shadow. Notice I kind of drag my brush to get some skip marks, some dry brush. And let's drop some darks into that. Whoops, should have been more wetter there. I want things to run. I want things to link and connect. Okay. Let's not tighten up now. Let's keep this party going. It's a big jumble, so we just suggest stuff here. It's a mystery. I love this tire. It's kind of soft. It kind of got to make it look round. So suggest a jumble of shapes there. Let's darken this side up so it'll be dark against light. Whoops. And of course, yeah. Get tissue. Dark against light. In the photo, that would all kind of link together, but we can pull out our our artistic license and change the values to make certain things pop. It's like a frog or something outside my studio talking to me. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Maybe red wasn't the best color. I wanted to make this pop out, so I painted the background. I don't know what's back there. I'm not going to try and figure it out. But I wanted this to be darker to make this pop forward. I'm going to try and keep this light right here because I'm going to try and put a little bit darker shadow right here. So I'm thinking dark against light, light against dark, light against dark, that kind of thing. This is a mystery. I don't want to try and figure all this out. I already went over my light there. Shadows underneath these trailer parts here. This is going to be super dark, so we don't have to worry about that. It's a tire back there. Maybe we'll into the wet there. We'll have a little fun and just spatter some thicker paint, some Quinn Gold, and let it just melt in. Just rough that up a little bit. Keep it more of a mystery. One of my favorite colors to spatter is cobalt teal. And of course, I'm getting it where it shouldn't go, but we don't care. We're brave. We're watercolorists. We laugh at the face of fear, right? No problem. Okay, so I've linked all this together. I love how it has a variety of colors. And we should probably let's keep playing with this guy a bit. Let's wet this here. Well, this is an interesting shape to this boat. Really interesting. I already went over with my carelessness. Notice how it's darker here and it gets lighter here to make it look round. So that's what we call in the business the humdinger. That's a tricky little part right there. I'm going to drop in some of that alizarin crimson. You guys are sure quiet out there. Is anybody still out there?
Yeah, David, I had a question. You said just a second ago that cobalt teal is your favorite color to splatter. Why is that?
I just love the look of the color, the bluish, the greenish blue color, but it's also opaque. And it kind of, yeah, I like the color. It's a greenish blue, kind of like a cerulean blue, but it's a little different. It's like Frank Francis said in one of his Cheap Joe videos. He said, if there's a color, if you like a color, by all means use it. So if you like a particular color, one time I taught a workshop and I said, well, I'm using indigo. And or somebody asked me, what color should I use? And I said, well, I use indigo. And then they used indigo and they said, I hate indigo. So I said, well, you don't have to use indigo. Use any color you want. Any color you want to use that'll give you the value that you need to reach. So if I want to get a dark value, even if I like if I like lemon yellow, but I need a dark value. Lemon yellow is not going to do the trick, right? So I've got to be able to, I got to choose my color, you know, based on what I like, but also it's got to get me the value that I'm after. So it's darker underneath this, you know, the sun's coming like this, right? And the boat's curved, and so it's darker here, and then it gets lighter as it goes up. It's a tricky little spot here. And the edge is really tricky.
Hi, David. This is Jolie, and I've been to many of your, or several of your classes, which they're just magical to me, and you're so inspiring. I have one of your pictures right here in front of me.
Oh, thanks.
And quick question, how moist is the paper right now? I can't see how sheeny it is.
Oh,
And
good.
also, oh, I was going to just ask one more. At the
Yeah.
beginning, you said value, connection, and color. I thought there was one more thing that when you're
Edges?
painting.
Edges.
Edges. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh, she asked a really good question. Like, so when I take a workshop, I'm always using Joseph Spookfik's terminology about the consistencies of paint. Like right now, I'm using kind of a coffee consistency paint, right? And it's like pretty transparent, very runny. And then another instructional, you know, vocabulary that he uses when he, at least in his book, is the moisture quality of the paper. And I just thought that was really helpful. And I think instructors should use that terminology, because if I'm working on like soaking wet paper and you're working on, you know, a shiny wet or a dull wet paper, or damp or moist, you know, if you're using this terminology, we're going to get different types of results, right? And so I think it's helpful to ask the instructor, like, or understand, like, what kind of surfaces are they working on? And I have a variety of surfaces now. You know, right now I pre-wet this area, so it's very kind of a shiny wet area in this area, and this is dry here. So I have certain areas that when I go over it, of course, it's very shiny wet now. But I had dried the paper, and it was pretty. I'll call it dry, even though it wasn't bone dry. I know the shadow in the picture is a very hard edge shadow, but I think it's a little bit distracting. So I'm just going to soften that shadow edge. I'm not going to make it a hard edge shadow like it is in the picture. I'm going to make it a soft edge like that. And we'll see how that works. Okay, so how are we doing? We got, actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm looking at it in the picture. I think I might just pull this right on up here. You know that. Maybe when this dries, I'll get it. Yeah, I like that better. And you know what? Maybe I'll even drop in a little bit of some darker. This is some phthalo blue. It may have some indigo in it as well. Just get myself into trouble. So I'm dropping in a cool, thicker color, like you know, we talked about Joseph Spoofik saying, you know, putting cream into the coffee kind of a thing. Thicker pigment into a thinner pigment. And you know what? Maybe I'll just go ahead and just jump right into that shadow. This cast shadow of the so that should be the same color as that shadow. That was a mistake. Should all kind of be linked together, right? So sometimes I just make mistakes to make everybody else feel good. I would never do that in the studio. It's just for your benefit. Yeah. Let's drop in a little bit of that. There we go. I'm gonna darken up.
Oh, also quick question. Did you move, David? Did you sell your house?
Yeah, I'm living over in Woodbury now, and just east of St. Paul, the capital of Minnesota. So I'm in my little den area, and I'm going to create a real nice big studio space has some skylights and a lot of natural light. But right now, I'm just in a little den area of the house. Okay, well, I did most of the mid-value shape, and a lot of this is going to be darker later, right? But I linked and connected this boat to this boat to its shadow. This boat ran into this boat, which ran into its cast shadows, ran in through the tire, which ran into the grass. And, you know, so I just want to emphasize how I'm letting one shape link into its neighboring shape. I'm thinking about the edges of some of these shadows, of the hard edge or a lost edge, where this shadow just kind of just disappears. So I'm considering, you know, the edges and linking and connecting based on values. And I worked on the shapes that are all linked and connected. I didn't go up and hit the things that weren't disconnected. Actually, I could actually jump into this. I should have done that at the same time. Because it's all in, now I'm going to be putting my hand in the paint. That's the problem. See, this is all same value too. I could have just done this at the same time and just got that, made it really easy. Block this whole thing out. I'm going to simplify this and call it all, actually just call it all a mid value. Yeah, let's just simplify this. And we can drop in some other colors, have some fun. I'm not sure. Nice thing about boats is they got so many weird things on them. I have no idea. Like, you look at that boat, it's like, what is that thing that's sticking up there? Who knows? It's a rectangular shape. It's a square shape. I don't try and figure it out. I just suggest that shape. Okay, there we go. So now I blocked it. And maybe I should do the same thing with this over here. Yeah, let's just block this in. Hopefully there's a big square shape up here. I have no idea what that is. I'm leaving some things out. I don't know what this is. It's part of the cabin, I'm guessing right there. And again, we can drop in some other colors, so it's just not all same color. Okay, well, it started really out of focus, right? The first step, I just toned the paper. Nothing made any sense. Everything was linking together. The sky linked into the boat, which linked into the ground, which linked into, you know, whatever. Everything was linked together, just avoided the whites. Now things are slowly starting to come into focus. Right now it's like, oh, you know what? I think I see something that might be a boat, you know? And the nice thing about boats too is once you put these vertical lines in, everybody's gonna say, oh, well, that's a boat. Okay, so I'm gonna dry this, and then we're gonna get our darker values into it, and then we'll you know, start putting in little details and the mass. And I'm just kind of curious, maybe a little bit of color running across there. Just to suggest maybe the top of the boat. Okay, I'm going to dry this again. How am I doing on time? How much time have I spent?
You have a lot of time from our perspective, because we have it scheduled like 3.5 hours or something, but you do what you need to do, whatever works.
Sure.
Yeah, it's 2:30 now, David. So
Okay.
you're doing good.
Okay, so we spent about an hour already. So yeah, so you know, within about you know, we'll see, within about 30-40 minutes, I bet we'll be looking pretty put together. All right, I'm gonna mute my mic here. Well, one thing I can see might be an issue is hopping out the side of the boat here. I should have, I messed a little area of the sky there. I'm just gonna pre-wet the sky. There we go. I'm gonna drop in some of that sky color, just to pop out, this right-hand side of the boat, right? There.
Hi, David, it's Jolie again.
I'm
Quick
sorry, what was
question.
that?
I said, this is Jolie again. Whenever I've taken the classes from you and done the online, you've used a photo for reference for your own personal watercoloring. Do you ever just have a vision in your head and just start painting that?
When I do the Misty Lakes, those are so, yeah, I just kind of go with the flow and just have a lot of fun, and it's all organic shapes until I put in maybe an eagle or a loon or something. It's all super organic. So, so it depends on the subject. Like I probably wouldn't attempt this out of my head. I'd want to have a photo reference for something like this. Yeah. All right. So now let's look at that that thumbnail. So the first step when I did the thumbnails, I toned the paper, avoiding the whites, and then I did my mid values, and then I finished by well, I did my darks. So then I started dropping the darks, and the darks are mostly inside those mid value shapes. So I started dropping in some darks. And then after that, I do my little details, things that are not connected, birds or the mass and things like that. Okay, so where are we at on the color here? First step, we tone the paper, and then we got some of our mid values, maybe some darks in there as well. And now I'm going to start increasing the values even more. I will continue to use the lighter values as well, but I'm going to start getting darker and darker and darker as I progress. And as I progress, I get tighter and tighter and tighter, and I do more separating. Okay, so and then some of these I don't even know if I need to go back into, like this car back here. I think it looks pretty good just the way it is. But we'll drop in a little darker value here. There. Suggestion of the wind, maybe a tail light. Let's see. Got the rear side mirrors. We can darken up the bottom here. We should get the license plate number on this guy. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Got my second brush. I can zoom in too. I forgot about that. I can zoom right in. I'll drop a little bit of cream into the coffee here. Bottom. Let that kind of melt in. See how I let that creamier color kind of melt into the thinner color. Okay. Right now, there is no separation from this shadow to this shadow, right? So we can now increase, do some more negative painting, And we can say, well, this is, I'm gonna make this darker right there, which is gonna pop that forward. Or if we want it, we can do the same with the trees or anything we want to. We can do more of that kind of thing. Now this is coming forward and this is going pushed back. I'm just gonna go ahead and knock out some of this as I'm moving across the paper. Whoops, getting kind of sloppy there. That's why I got a tissue. So little details now, here and there. Okay.
David,
All right.
this is Christine again.
Hi,
Someone
Christine.
asked why you made the second boat so dark. Will it lighten as it dries?
Well, one of the reasons is I have a very dark personality, so I just cannot resist. I turn to the dark side. I just I took a Herman Peckel workshop over in Madeline Island one time, and he said, David, you never have to worry about going too dark. I just like going dark. Part of the problem, part of the reason is someone mentioned, or they mentioned that I studied Asian brush painting when I first started painting. Well, when you work in Asian brush painting, what are you using? Using ink, right? So
Yeah.
I when I first started painting, I was used to going ink, using black ink, and I was so used to going really dark, which I think was a super helpful for my watercolor journey, because a lot of watercolorists never use the full range of values. They never get into the dark values, and so their paintings never really pop, right? Because you need that high contrast, right? And so a lot of people will look at my paintings and they'll go, gosh, is that a watercolor? Because they, when they look at, for example, the bee painting, they're like, is that a watercolor? Because they think the colors are just so vibrant. And that's a question I always ask folks. I said, how much do watercolors dry? Do they dry 50% lighter, 40% lighter, 80% lighter? Because I've heard everything. And of course, the answer is they're all correct. They dry 80% lighter, they dry 20% lighter. It depends on how much water is in your paint, right? If there's tons of water in your paint, it's going to dry a lot lighter. If there's straight out of the tube paint, then it's not going to dry as light. So anyways, where was I going with that? So a lot of artists don't have that high contrast to make their paintings pop, and they're just so timid on getting into the dark values, whereas I tend to be a little braver and go into the darks. But you will see now watch what happens here. You're saying, oh, that's really dark. Well, let's see how dark it is. It's all relative. All right, now I've got some nice thick indigo and mystery dark. It's indigo and ultramarine, or no, phthalo blue. All right, and now let's see. First, let's figure out where I'm going here. Okay, I'm going to go. Well, let's just, who knows? We're going to go. Now, look how dark that is. All right. Now, this doesn't seem so dark, right? Next to that dark line, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
And that's the mystery shapes up here. I have no idea what all this stuff is. We're just going to do that. And just throw in some darks. There's a couple of highlights of something there. Okay, now, look at, now this is like, oh, that's not dark at all. It's because this is super dark. And it's super dark. It's a dark color, but the consistency of paint is as like thin oil paint. It's like it's creamy and buttery. It's very, very strong, very thick. And now watch this line here. How, if I can draw a line. Let's see. All right, look at how dark that is, right? And now again, we're going to darken this whole bottom. Now, was I really that dark before? When you look at that.
That's a great explanation. Yeah.
And now we're gonna Now we're turning to the dark side. Now look at this dark compared to that dark. And then we can negative paint around this dealy bopper. I think that's what they're called. There. There. Now we're talking dark. Let's zoom out a little bit and see how light that mid value actually was compared to those darks.
Wow, what a difference. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Really makes it pop too. And just like, whoa. It's a little line right there. And let's see. And now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go back into this beautiful wash that I had. But let's negative paint around some stuff. Let's there is like some kind of a something running across right there. Let's carve around that. There we go. Small stem. Here on my brush. On this. So when I negative paint, a lot of times you'll see I build a wall. So I build a wall and then I pull out from the wall. All right, I pull out from the wall. Okay, let's see. I don't want to get my hand in the paint. I'm kill all my initial wash. Something like that. Oh, that looks kind of fun. I'm gonna get my second brush and kind of tie it into this cat. I wish I would have made those cast shadows a little darker, but we can play with it more later. But let's see. Suggest some grasses and things down there. All right, what are we going to do with this guy? Oh boy, I hate to go through and paint him all again, but he's got the dark there anyway, so let's do it. Getting a milky consistency phthalo indigo mix. Here. Into that. Wow, now we're dark, right? It's like, wow, everybody's like, man, this guy is a dark personality. Look at how dark he's going. He's crazy. This bumper has a dark side as well. There we go. Okay. I'd love to go up here, but now my hand's gonna get in there, so I should probably lock that in place. Put some dashes and dots to suggest some foliage or some grasses and things. Okay, let's see. Well, let's start with what we know. This is a confusing area. We know there's some dark tire or something right there. Let's start with that. And whoops. Another dark tire there. I've lost my drawing. I should have redrew some areas, but I'll just use my Jedi mastery and say there's something right there. And hopefully no one's been over to Bayfield and said, hey, you know, I was looking at that grass and it wasn't quite like that. It was, hopefully I can get away with some stuff. Whoop. Tie that in. Whoops. Make everybody feel good when I say whoops a lot. Oops. Underneath this. Suggest that. Shadow side of this. I think there's a block right here for that tire. But then the bottom of that's got to suggest grasses. So we got to rough that bottom up. It's got to be a broken edge, right? This is all, you know, overlapped with grass and things. Okay, let's see. Okay, well, we could make, it is dark right here, which would make that tire pop forward a little better. And there's some grasses, there's some bars that I didn't put in there. And then we can use this dark again to suggest the side of that part of that boat right there.
David, with all your trips to France, are you getting pretty fluent in French?
What I do is I just use the French accent. Oh, monsieur, you know, and and it's all I need.
I love it.
That's funny.
Yeah, you'd think I'd pick up some of the language, but they're so nice to us there that they helping us out. It's kind of like when I was learning Spanish, I went to Guatemala and I stayed with a Guatemalan family, an immersion experience trying to learn Spanish. But of course, then when you're with all the other Americans, you know, you fall back on English and then when you come back to the States, you fall back on it. You know, like in Europe, they're so close, you know, everything's pretty close together. So I think they have a lot of opportunities to kind of practice. And anyways, yeah. So anyways, my long story short, no, don't know any French. I'm gonna throw some shadows. There is, if you look at the bottom there, it's a lot of cast shadows and stuff running across right there. I'll soften some of those edges with my thirsty brush. There's like all kinds of like plants and things there. So I'll spatter more paint. There's the Queen Gold. Go. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. This dark here is popping that forward. This dark, you know, is in contrast to the light here. So dark against light, light against dark, dark against light. So hopefully that's helping that boat come forward and popping that out of that mess. Yeah, I think we're starting to see these boats coming out of here. I think what I need to do now is dry what I just did so I can go in and do the little details and we'll see what we got. So I will like, you know me, I've been in a workshop. I will continue playing with this all day if you let me. So let me dry this and we'll pull it together with some masks and little details, and then we'll take a step back and see what we got. Well, there's all kinds of stuff it needs. I should have, there's another, like one of those braces or something coming over here. I should have put that in while I was working with this red, so it linked and connected. But we don't want this thing looking like it's gonna topple over. So we're gonna have to put in some braces here and there. And maybe I see some stuff back here as well. I'm just going to put a big brace right here. Whoops, not my tire. And again, that would have been, it's okay, it linked fine, but whoops, it wasn't quite dry, or I'm putting my hand in the paint and ruined my tire there. Part of the workshop is how do you fix mistakes? Well, that would have to be scrubbed out. This kind of guy is kind of floating too. There's all kinds of darks underneath here that I didn't put in, right? All kinds of braces and things down here. Let's just put a bunch of stuff. Otherwise it's gonna. All right. Okay, let's put in some details here. I know I'm kind of flying through this, but I know people got things to do, and trying to get as much in as I can. Usually when I work on a painting, I'll work on it for hours, so I'm cleaning my hands on the sideline because I'm afraid my hand's going to go in here, get some handprints. There's puddles on the table. I'm working very, very wet in some areas. Okay, let's see. Let's start coloring some of this stuff. These are not linked shapes. That's why I haven't hit these things yet. But there's a sail that's of this boat and the mast there. And now there's going to be a darker side and a lighter side, so I'll do the darker side of that later. Let's go ahead and flip this sideways and start putting in some mass. So this, I do this just so it's easier for my hand to move in that direction, right? So I turn it sideways, or, well, this is fine. Okay. And I'm just going to grab some of that bluish color, milky consistency. And I'll get some opaque white out later, I think, and throw in some of that as well. Get some highlights. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So that's the nice thing about this nice sharp pointy brush is I can get some pretty nice lines with it. And it's still wet. I'm still picking up paint. I'm probably going to be stamping paint across my picture. Wait, oops. My sponge is so dirty, I can't actually clean my hands. I'm a mess. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's use some of that same color and get some of those lines, the riggings or the lines that are coming off of this. And I don't need them to be a solid line. They can be broken. It's actually better. It's like light hitting it. I kind of use my arm and I do a few passes in the air and then I go for it. Whoops, see, that's a little wide. That's all right though. We need more lines now. We look at that picture, there's just tons and tons of. There's actually a really big. Another sail, it's kind of wound up. Let's see, I'm gonna go through this place. See where it is. It's going from right here all the way up. So it doesn't have to be a straight line because it's a sail, it's all kind of wound up, wrapped up on it. So it should look like that. Okay, notice I went lots of blues there. I'm going to go ahead and drop in some of the darker shadows on this guy right now. Go. Maybe a couple suggestions. I know what some of this. Once there's like these little railings around the boats, right? My brother's got a sailing boat. You think I'd know a little bit more about boats? Okay, we don't want anybody falling off the boat, so we put some suggestions, some railings there. Okay, we can do more later if you want. Let's go to the next boat. I'll get probably stronger with my pigment as I get more into the foreground. Notice how kind of light and blue and cool it is back here, and as I move forward, I get darker and darker. That's what I tend to do. Let's put something back up here. There's something there. I don't know what that is. And let's put something up here too. Okay. Back sideways again. Let's figure out this is here. Okay. It's got these guys. Okay. I see what's going on. All right. Using my Perla brush with some indigo and phthalo blue. And do a few passes over it, and then I just go for it. A little bit too much paint on my brush. And then I'll thicken it up a bit. Straighten it out a little bit. This one got a little bit wonky. You look at the picture, there's something right there. And there's something up here. I don't know what it is. Something for things to connect. Go straighten that out. Let's widen this guy right here a little bit. Not that much. Well, actually, yeah, the sail goes up like that. So that was a happy accident. This side is darker, and there's some folds of the tarp that's going over the boat right here. I've got my cat down by my feet trying to help me out. You need to say hi? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. Are you gonna say hi? This is Mr. Gray Cat. I'm really creative with my names. He's Gray, he's Mr.
Oh,
Hi, Mr. Gray Cat.
Gray.
oh, it's so cute.
Yeah, he likes to help. He likes to walk through the alizarin crimson and across the carpet.
Oh, God. Sounds like my cats.
Let's see.
Will you be fixing up your new place to have classes there?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a possibility. It won't happen anytime soon though, because it would take quite a bit. The other place was, when I bought it, I was immediately thought I could teach workshops here. But this place, it has a lot of space and it definitely could happen, but it would take quite a bit of investment. So it won't be for a while if I do that. There's some mystery shapes here. We just suggest.
Those classes were so fun though, and everybody came from all over to be there.
Yeah, that was a great experience. You know, I kind of starting my art career and design, you know, creating the studio. Here's the boom of this guy. That was a lot of fun. I tell you though, it was kind of a test too to decide, you know, to find out how serious I was about going into this art career thing, because the first workshop I taught, everything that could go wrong went wrong. I mean, we had a great time. The workshop was successful, but the first day, people are coming down the driveway to my studio, and a tree fell down across the driveway, like the first day. And just all kinds of bizarre things were happening. It was definitely nerve-wracking. And I learned a lot.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was like, what are the chances of a tree falling down across the driveway? And she was really nice. The lady came out and she was like, "You got a chainsaw? I'll help you." And I was like, "Oh no, let me take care of this." And she wanted to saw it up and everything. Oh, it was funny. Yeah. So yeah, so you see how now it's not so hard, right? I'm just kind of like dropping in darks here and there where it's necessary. That first the first step wasn't that bad. It's that mid-value step, which was just the humdingers of the step. Right. And if I have a chance, I'll throw. Oh, look at that. My gosh. Well, what are we going to do about that?
Can you lift it easily?
After you cry, what do you do?
Make it a bird.
A big bird.
Well, unfortunately, it's in the sky because that's a problem. And it's phthalo blue. Whoops, now I'm hitting that. All right. So let's see what happens. How much will come out just with some water, some clean water. Well, there is a sail that comes right through there, but let's see if we can't rub her out. So this is a Fritz scrubber. And it's made for these little bits here, that's paper coming off. That's little bits of paper, but you can see how it's actually getting the majority of this blue off. And notice I'm not just scrubbing the area with the blue, I'm scrubbing around that area because when I damage the paper, I need that to integrate, just like I need the colors to integrate. If I'm gonna have damaged paper, I need that to integrate. I need that to disperse. I need it. I don't want people to see, to be able to tell that I scrubbed the paper. So I'm kind of feathering out my scrubbing marks.
David, this is Christine. Will you go back in with your sky color?
Yeah, I'm kind of determining a plan as I'm working here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm up for suggestions. What should we do?
Well,
No, I will, you know, as I'm hitting this, now, usually when I shouldn't have just misted this because it actually hit this line and started to buzz that out. You should protect areas like with a shield.
yeah.
When I'm scrubbing that area, and I actually have a better scrubber somewhere, let's see. Here we go. I'm actually activating the paint that's around there as well.
Yeah. That Fritz scrubber really lifted it.
Yeah, it was a really dark blue. I actually got a fingerprint here or something, so we'll just hit that as well. Actually, I think that was spattered paint. And now, yeah, I just did that for everyone's benefit. Just so how do you correct mistakes? I would never do that if I was just painting on my own. I do this all the time. That's why I can correct stuff, is because I make so many mistakes. Okay, yeah, let's throw in some paint and see what happens. So here's some Queen Gold. Go. Now I'm painting on damaged paper, right? So these little bits of paper here, that'll just come off. They'll just rub off. It won't be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to fade that out. And I got my board tilted this direction. There. Nobody will ever know. Don't tell anybody. Don't. When you talk about Dave Smith, you say that guy's flawless. He never makes a mistake. It's amazing. There. This again, these little bits, that'll just rub off. So you won't know, that little imperfection right there. It's like there's going to be a sail going through that, and that's going to dry a little lighter too. In fact, as long as this is, I might as well darken this value up a little bit if I want. All right, let's dry that, and you won't even know. No problem. Watercolor is just so forgiving. The area where I made my mistake, it's not going to be a problem. The area where I added paint is actually a bigger problem than the area where I made my mistake. This should be quite a bit lighter, right?
So could you tell me what kind of brushes do you use? I was late in joining the meeting. It was closed.
Did I hear a question?
Yes, the question is what kind of brushes? The gal that asked joined late.
What kind of brush was a scrubbing brush?
No, I think your Skoda Perla brushes, I think.
Yeah, I've been using the Skoda Perla brush. You see this little bloom right here? That's where the greater moisture was falling less moisture. So the water collected around the edge of the paper. Again, I would never do that on my own, just trying to show you, why those are created. So anyway, so yeah, the moisture built up underneath the paper. The surface was drying faster than underneath here. So the less moisture whipped the greater moisture from underneath the paper, pushed the pigment, and now I've got a little bit of a line right there. But that would be protected, would be covered if there was matted or something. Okay. So yeah, you won't even, now we'll go back over it with some paint. You won't even know. Let's try and keep my hand out of the paint. We'll put this, actually, let's put the lines in this mask here. First. Brush.
You're using
I'm using the Perla brush.
Perla. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. There's tons and tons of lines going over.
David, this is Jolie again. I love the story of how the water fountain painting that you did that you won the huge awards for, about how you had let that sit and you had been using masking fluid and it actually stuck on there and almost kind of ruined the painting, but you didn't give up and you kept going and then you ended up, it's just a premier, gorgeous piece.
Oh, yeah, that was a whirlwind, that fountain painting. I think it's this painting. Let's see, this painting here was the painting, won the Scholarship Award at TWSA. Yeah, I went to Europe and got a chance to teach over there, and of course left the painting in with the masking on for months, and came back and the masking wouldn't come off, or a lot of it wouldn't come off. So I had to try and pick that masking fluid off. Not an enjoyable process.
Wow. Is there some kind of solvent that would have helped lift it or not really?
I didn't know. I mean, if there would have been something that would have helped me, I would have used it. Yeah, it was painful to
Wow.
there's another tool also we could use for lines. It's like this this is a reservoir brush. So it's got a real fat part and a rigger part. Let's try that for some lines, see how that works. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. There's just so many lines going all over this thing. You don't need to put all of them in. Oh, I did it again. Well, you know how I clean it. I'll clean it later. This one won't be as bad. It's a little bit lighter. Let's keep going. Let's see, let's figure out the shadow side of this guy. Right here. This is the sail. So again, here's the photo. Oops, here's the photo. So I got that dark side of that sail that I'm working on right here. It's a big sail. It's all folded up right here. It's coming down right through where we scrubbed. House is a little bit fast and furious. Sometimes those little imperfections just make it look like a watercolor, like it was done, you know, somebody had fun painting it versus slaving over it. Makes it look more impressionistic.
Are you doing more of the plein air things, David?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of plein air lately. All the things that we did in France, or majority of those were plein air. I just love it. I'm gonna be up in Grand Marais shortly, painting up there. I just love being outside.
Do you have those photos on your website too?
Yeah, I have. I think I have most of those ones that I did in France on my website. Yeah, you can see what I was up to. And next year will be, I'll be teaching in France, Croatia. I'll be teaching in Croatia, then Provence, and then the Dordogne region again, southern France. All right, well, let's see. I know this is fast and furious. But hopefully we're starting to see some boats coming out of this mess. Let's give a little darker shadow on the side of these guys. We could suggest stuff in the background things. Another tool you can use is white gouache, and this is actually, when we paint the bee, for example, we'll just be masking. We won't be using any old paper white. The whites of the paper will be our whites. So that's more, it's a different process, right? It's really planning things out, masking your whites, protecting your whites. This is more direct approach, just going for it. And so this white here is it's peeled off, but it's Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white. So if there is some highlights and things that we missed that we want to throw back in, we can use this. Let's see, for example, we'll highlight along there. Little, see how that white really pops against the dark there. That little sparkle back. And we could do the same. This is all pretty wet. I'm afraid to get my hand in there more, but look back on this.
David, did you say that the white you're using is acrylic?
No, I'm not. It's like gouache. I'm not sure what it's made out of. It's Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white. It's not acrylic.
Okay,
It's like gouache.
great, thank you.
It looks a little wonky because the paper's buckled. But we can also put some white on the right-hand side of some of this stuff too, if we want. And suggest light hitting that side. It'd be better if it was drier. Anyways, so I can play with that as well. And but I think let me just throw a mat on it. We'll see where we're at, because I think we've probably gone a couple hours here. So putting a white border on it will help clean it up as well, right? Let's take this off. That on there. And yeah, I think it's starting to come together. I'll have to do some cleaning up, but you can, hopefully you're seeing how working down the values and getting those really dark values in and linking, connecting really make this subject really pop, you know, throwing in those really dark. So we first started by just toning the paper, letting everything link together, avoiding the whites, then linking and connecting based on the mid values, and finally dropping in the darks here and there, and then little details and cleaning up things. And that's how I paint in a direct approach. So yeah, hopefully that was sorry. I know
it looks great.
Yeah, thanks.
Great.
Yeah,
Fantastic, David.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I first time painting this subject, but I think it's got a lot of potential. If I were to do this again, I'd probably make this gold like really clean gold, is really vibrant, and then let it fade out. And yeah, there's all kinds of fun things you can do with this.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, hopefully, folks, you got something out of that, and really enjoyed, sharing, my process for a direct approach. Again, later in August, we'll be painting this scene here, which is a more step-by-step masking and a pouring approach, a different approach, and we'll try and tie in some other approaches as well, more fun wet on wet approaches.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you,
David.
guys.
Thank
Time
you,
well
David.
spent. Thank you, David. Yeah, sign up for the workshop, everyone.
Appreciate
it.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Fabulous.
David.
And this
Great
will be
job.
available on the YouTube for a little bit to watch again.